Hey everyone, I'm Katie Daryl, and today we are at home and social with the Grammy winning and Grammy nominated John Popper of Blues Traveler. How you doing, dude?
I'm doing great. It's great to be here. It's really fun to be nominated.
Right? You're like, I've been invited to the ball once again.
For the next 2 months, I officially know what I'm doing, no matter what happens.
Well, yeah. I mean, tell me, there's a lot that goes into, once you are nominated for a Grammy, like you're just on a press
hmm
circuit and there's like luncheons and stuff, right?
And suddenly everyone's like, "Oh, he's Grammy nominated. He knows what he's doing." My parents can't say you're wasting your life for the next 2 months. So I'm gonna milk it. I'm gonna like try and get a degree with basically no information and just say I know stuff. I'm like the person who stayed at Holiday Inn the night before. I know how to do a tracheotomy in an emergency. I'm Grammy Award nominated, so.
Well, listen, this is old news to you because sure,
I
you're
have the
nominated
power to
now,
heal.
but you
Yeah.
already have the hardware. You already have a Grammy in your
Yes, but
possession.
having a second one means that it wasn't a mistake the first time, and they really got it right. See, now it's 2 times. I know what
I
I'm doing.
I did it again. I've tricked them
Yes,
twice. Fooled
only
them
took
once.
25 years.
Oh,
Yeah,
goodness
nice
gracious.
quarter century in between.
Well, I mean, so much has happened in between, obviously. Yeah. I mean, the
Oh
first
yeah.
Grammy, I believe you won, it was off of the album Four, and it was for the best rock performance by a group for your song Runaround, which
hmm
everyone loves. Come on now.
Well, that was a fun one. Yeah,
And here we are now
and
with a Grammy nomination for Best Traditional Blues Album. How is this nomination different?
it's really kind of amazing and baffling to us that we got a traditional blues award because we are about as far from traditional blues as most bluesy people would want to be. I mean, we really had trouble with traditional blues, particularly. But on this album, Matt Rawlings was an amazing producer, and he went with the concept that Roundhill had, which was us playing that blues album. People wanted us to do an album like that for years, but frankly, we didn't have the patience and we didn't have the temperament. And it really took Matt Rawlings to get, especially, I would say for my part, as a soloist, Chan and myself had to really change the way we played. Like we were very good at doing lots of embellishments and lots of speed. We grew up in the age of Eddie Van Halen. And when it was kind of ironic that Eddie passed while we were making the album because it was sort of more it was just more insight into like having to let go of that discipline of doing as fast as you can flourishes and really go back to the phrasing that we always knew was there, but we never had the time for it.
Was it this album allowed you to take on some covers and do some things with songs that are very beloved that some people would say,
I
how
know.
dare you touch that? But you did. Well done.
Yes, through the gift of ignorance, we didn't know the importance of any of these songs. We just did what our producer told us. And, the one that I was looking for was Sitting on Top of the World. We all went off, and I knew that I could get one song on that I wanted, with all the, the Congress of the band. You just try and pick a favorite. And it was Sitting on Top of the World. I swear to God, I wanted to do it like the Rolling Stones did that song, You Gotta Move. And it was kind of confusing. The two songs for me kind of helped in the performance of it.
Mhm.
But what really helped was having the guests we had, like Warren Haynes on that song.
Right.
I was doing a great job. And then Warren comes in and sings. And it's like, whoa, where'd that pocket come from? And Warren Treaty is this husband and wife singing group that are so amazing. We had them. I'm trying to remember which song it was on. Like we had such a flurry of people. I know Mickey Raphael, Willie Nelson's harmonica player, and me trade on this classic harmonica song, Roadhouse Blues. And, that's a Doors song. It's a lot later than the
I
traditional
woke up
blues
this
stuff.
morning and I got
And I got
myself
myself a beat. But being a harmonica player and Mickey being one, we appreciated the importance of that song because it's got a very famous harmonica song. John Sebastian plays on it. And we trade almost bar for bar throughout the song, and no one notices because we're like both trying to sort of sound like each other. And that it's a really cool result if you're a harmonica fan. That one was kind of fun to do.
It's like the opposite
And
of dueling
Crystal,
Banjos. It's like dueling harmonicas.
yes, and we became so like in and out of each other's head that you can't tell who's who. It's kind of neat. Crystal Bowersock singing on "You Got Me Running" she's been a friend of mine for years. And so we were looking for people to sit in, and I knew she could belt a blues out. And it was a real treat for her to get to play for Matt too, because, you know, I think she's been meaning to do that. And so there's just a lot of great.
There's a lot happening, and there's a lot of great ways to describe the album. And some of the adjectives and descriptions that have been used include saucy call and response singing, harmonica and piano intertwined, swaggering struts. Like, I love the descriptions within the bio of this album.
You described me as so limber. I feel
your
tantric.
album's flexible.
Nice. Yes, it's bendy, a very bendy album, very wiry and limber.
How do you, I mean, especially when you are taking some of these classic songs, very beloved songs. I mean, you mentioned the Doors. Many people would be like, I can't redo the Doors, or Gnarls Barkley, Crazy. I believe Rolling Stone magazine, didn't they say that that was like the best song of a decade once? And then you're like, oh, excuse me, let me just do this harmonic on it
Barkley
and deliver
it. I found that one particularly hard. First of all, it's not a traditional blues song. Second of all, Gnarls Barkley is still performing it.
Right.
So he's the guy who wrote the song. And I'm with, Tom Hanks's wife, and Blues Traveler is about the most Caucasian recipe to do this like soulful song. Oh yeah. And then throw in John Scofield. There you go. That's going to that was a pretty Caucasian roster right there. But what amazed me is I think it was really Rita's singing that sold it.
Yeah.
Because that was a tough song for me to get just rhythmically. Gnarls comes in on the upbeat of 3. And for some reason, for the life of me, I cannot come in on the upbeat of 3. It took hours. But just overcoming that little hurdle, I was like, dear God, how am I going to play on this? So having John and Rita, really, that made that song possible. I don't think we could have pulled it off without some help. That one was a real treat.
For those of you just joining us, I'm Katie Daryl, and we are at home and social with John Popper of the band Blues Traveler. Obviously, they already have one Grammy win, but they are going for a second one, nominated for the Best Traditional Blues Album. A lot of great people in this category, and this is your 14th full-length album. 14!
I know.
I'm not going to have you name them all, but if I made you name them all, could you do it? Or has it become a thing where you just can't rattle it off?
I could do it because I have a tradition in my house. When we actually make something, I try to keep it because you can never know when you're going to get them. So here's all of our albums.
Oh, wow.
And then here's that Grammy you were talking about.
There it is. There it is.
And you'll see we won the Best Blues Artist of the New York Music Awards. And what I think that was the heavy metal crowd and the hip hop crowd had both heard of us, but they'd never seen us. And they figured, well, Blues Traveler, yeah, that sounds bluesy. And we won. So maybe some of that same rationale will help us in the Grammys.
The new album is called Traveler's Blues. I do like the flip on the word. It certainly does.
We thought of it while we were in the mirror. We were looking in the mirror one day, and we all we like to shave together. So we were like, hey, Blues Travelers. Yes, it's perfect. It's fun hearing the announcer say it in the category too. Blues Travelers Blues. That's kind of fun.
It does seem like it could be a typo.
Yes.
Your musical history is so rich, and you guys have done so much. I believe that there was someone said that you are considered a key part of the re-emerging jam band scene of the 90s. And now listen, I grew up in the 90s, so I didn't know it was re-emerging. I just thought we invented it. Yes. I was like, yeah, we did it. We did it.
Oh, we knew that the jam scene existed before, but we didn't know we were re-emerging either. We thought that we were, milking or joining on to, but re-emerging works too. We always felt like jam band is a very weird category because none of us sound like each other. So it's kind of it's an easy thing to be a jam band if you just have a certain casual attitude towards start times and what people get to smoke.
Yeah. Well, and that being said, you then capitalized on it in such a great way. I mean, the 90s were full of all the best festivals, one of which being the Horde Festival. And I mean, this was definitely, it was a group of people that, the set times, might play for 20 minutes, might play for 40 minutes, might arrive on time, might not arrive on time.
They used to call it the Lollapalooza tour.
Yes, exactly. You could buy
Yeah.
like a lot of weird hemp products in the parking lot, and it was a good time. But in all
Yeah.
seriousness, this went from 1992 to
Uh-huh.
1998. You did have a comeback one around 2000. Was it like 15 or 16?
Yeah, something like that. I think it was 2015.
People love a good
And
throwback. I mean, please
we're
tell us
talking
that this
about
is
doing it again. We're talking about doing it again this year.
okay.
This
That's
would
what I
be
want to
this
hear,
would be the
John.
this is the 30th anniversary of Horde, and it would also be Colonel Bruce Hampton's 75th birthday. He died 5 years ago, and I was actually with him on stage when he passed, and he managed to play his own wake. It was like his birthday party at in Athens, Georgia, and I mean, I don't know anyone who could pull that off. We kind of want to make this one about Colonel Bruce because he was the band when the Horde started out.
Mhm.
All the other bands had like followings and big sort of areas where they played, and the Aquarium Rescue Unit was the smallest band, but we all looked up to them
Mhm.
and would stop what we were doing and watch them. And they really kind of were sort of the spiritual center of it. And so I think making some sort of getting people to come play Colonel songs would be a really fun thing, and getting people involved based on that, I
Yeah.
think is a little truer to it. So we're looking into that actually. Yeah, and we got a spot in Connecticut. We're thinking about doing it this year.
What is the most distracting thing for you being on stage and staying in the moment? Because obviously, like you said, the songs they're fluid, and you can add in new things, and it doesn't have to be exactly like the album, and so you can get into it whether you're drinking beers or not drinking beers, folks, right? But I can
Oh
imagine
yeah,
that
yeah.
you get into the rhythm, and all of a sudden, like, you zone out for a minute. I've done that
That's
in
what you're hoping.
interviews. I zoned out, and all of a sudden I'm like, oh shoot, where was I? What's my follow-up? So
I'm zoning out right now.
I know. Who are you? But
Yeah,
what is
what's
the
going
most
on? I don't
distracting
know
thing?
where I am.
Are you
It is
able to
kind
look in
of
the audience and see someone and be like, I wonder if that beach ball is going to get up here, and like you're following a beach ball, or
um,
what is it?
that happens all the time. But the thing is, you ultimately the only thing that will distract you is your own brain. Because I know what I'm doing. I know the autopilot. You live for being in the zone where it's
Mhm.
just moving beyond your ability to affect it. But I don't just lock eyes with someone in the crowd. I'll like get auditory hallucinations. Like I swear to God, I'll be playing and I'll hear someone in the crowd go, "Oh, he missed that note," and I'll like only I would have noticed that. So it's clearly a fake. I'm imagining this, and I've actually had real people heckle us, and it's so different. You laugh when they heckle you because the moment is going by so fast, but in your experience, it feels so slow in this moment.
Yeah.
There's so many things you can be thinking about. So what you're trying not to do is distract yourself. And I'm convinced the crowd knows everything that I'm thinking. And my biggest fantasy is I'm going to walk up to the microphone when I'm supposed to sing and go, and then like urinate and a big stain kind of appears. And then I fall on the ground and go fetal, and someone has to come get me. I mean, that's the fantasy, and it never has happened. I keep hoping, like almost, come on, give me like a stroke right now while I'm singing. Let me just forget all the words and mess up.
Waiting for your fail. You're just waiting for it.
And you know what? The fails actually have happened, and they are such a small second that goes by, and you can laugh them off. Nobody, it doesn't affect the music if you get right back into it. And I remember one time I had a new girlfriend, and she was very concerned with taking care of me. And we're at Red Rocks, and it's her first time at Red Rocks. And I see her coming on the stage, and she looks urgently pointing at me. And I'm like, oh, she's losing her mind. I don't know what's happening here. And then she finally like gestures, look at your fly, to which I go, and then the whole crowd goes, because they were all distracted by this gaping open fly the entire time. And the worst thing you can do is look at it, because now you've telegraphed it to them. But then I zipped it up, and then we could get back to the show. So, I mean, stuff happens.
It's almost
all
like
the
you have to
time.
start
Oh,
from
you
the
think you're
beginning
doing-
because they were so distracted. They're like, oh, I got to start
Yes,
from the
sorry.
beginning.
We have to go back, everybody. We're going back 45. But, sometimes you think you're doing great, and the crowd starts cheering, and it's because something's happening behind you. And so you'll think, you just learn to not take anything for granted.
Sure.
You're never like taking over the place. When that's happening, you're kind of not thinking about it. You're in this wonderful zone. And
Well,
that is what everybody strives to be in.
You brought up two things here. You brought up the Red Rocks, and you brought up don't take things for granted. There you had been.
Yeah.
You've been playing the Red Rocks every 4th of July since like 93,
Yeah.
94.
Yeah, that's right.
And you missed 2 times, 99 because of your health and
Yes.
2020 because of the world's health.
Yes, exactly. So the world, I owed the world one. So, all right, world, you've got your one back. Now we're even.
Do you look towards Red Rocks and that annual tradition on the 4th of July differently?
Yeah. I mean, you have to over several decades. Trying to figure out which number it is. Yeah, so 93 to 99 was 6 years, and then we did 2000
and 93 was you were touring with the Allman Brothers, so it wasn't your headline that year, right? I think it was. So I don't know if that counts.
Was the first Red Rocks.
If we're keeping tabs and doing numbers, I just wanted you to make sure you're counting.
Yeah, if we're doing numbers, our first one was in 92, but that was in September with Widespread Panic, and that was also a co-bill. And then 93 was our first, the Allman Brothers called and said, we're going to be in town. You're going to be in town. Let's not blow each other out. Let's work together. And that was a Red Rocks on July 4th. And that started the July 4th. Then 94 was our first by ourselves Red Rocks.
Right. And that was for the Horde Festival.
Well, yeah, we use it for the Horde Festival, or if we had nothing, like we do it by ourselves anyway. That became like our thing. And so, yeah, that's 29, 30 years, something like that. It's getting nuts.
Well, it's nice to know what you're doing for the holiday, though, right?
Right.
Are we going to mom's house or dad's house to watch the fireworks? No, we're going to our house, the Red Rocks.
As long as we're not pissing off the residents of Colorado. Like, they might be like, every July 4th, we hear these same songs. What's going on? My dog is like,
the fireworks run around again.
Yes, right. Again.
Again.
So
really,
as long as we're not upsetting anybody, then we'll do it as long as they let us. So, yeah. It's the funnest show in a lot of ways, because it's sort of like a family reunion at this point. And it's also like the biggest pressure, because I think it's the largest audience generally we get. And like this year, we hadn't played all pandemic, and it was our first gig back, and it was sold out. And then CNN wanted to put it on CNN. So that was our first gig not playing for a year. And that was the longest break we'd had since 1986. So like we really, back in high school, we had to stop touring because we had school. But other than that, it was the pandemic, and we just kept working. And that's kind of a strange thing. Even when our bass player died, within a month, we were having auditions, and like we were at that Red Rocks the following year. It's a real testament to the way we suppress things instead of dealing with them, I would say. I think we have psychological issues. Like, there's more to life than being on the road, but we never went to look for it. You
use your therapist dollars for that one, folks.
Hell yeah.
You did mention playing in school, and I would imagine, as a kid, playing the harmonica doesn't pull in as many babes as the guitar, but
the ones who know what they're doing do.
Well, it was going to bring me to your autobiography is quite possibly the best named book in the business. What is it? Suck and Blow?
And other stories I'm not supposed to tell. The idea was that all my friends would buy it to see what I said about them. Because if you throw in other stories I'm not supposed to tell, everyone has to buy it.
Of course. The album by Blues Traveler is called Traveler's Blues. It is nominated for a Grammy. Do you know what you're going to wear?
Our big record was 4 because it was the 4th record. Oh, yes. I've been working on this with my girlfriend. We're looking at I don't want to leak anything, but we're torn between the Fire Engine red tuxedo.
Always good.
Or the shimmery gold sparkly one. I guess that's LeMay, or
LeMay's also good too. I mean,
the key is what will they have in my size? I'm always the victim of I'm too tall or too big. I'm just big and tall. And all the cool stuff is always for the slim waisted, and that ain't me.
Well, I'm sure
and, nothing too revealing, of course.
Yeah, no, you got to do the slit up the leg, a J-Lo type thing, maybe, really show that thigh. People love it on the red carpets.
Yes. You know what? I should have a split leg just for feminism, just to prove that anyone can have a split leg. But then I got to shave my leg, and my leg looks like fried chicken that someone lost in a freezer a few years ago. It's like not just white, it's blue.
No.
I'm a vampire blue. See, I have fear of the sun. The sun is my enemy. That's what the hat's all about.
SPF 100 isn't enough for John Popper.
Exactly. Yes. Fear and shadows. That's what I need. I need the night.
Oh my gosh.
Fresh
Have you
blood.
watched that FX show, What We Do in the Shadows, by the way?
No, I haven't.
Oh, it's this great vampire show. It's totally humor. It's hilarious. I highly
All
recommend
right. I
it.
went all in on True Blood, by the way. So, I mean, I've done
Oh
my
no, this
time
is
for vampire
comedy.
shows.
This is comedy gold, this one. So yeah. Blues Traveler's new album is called Traveler's Blues. It is Grammy nominated, and I hope everyone can get their hands on it. Thanks for joining us today, John.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Hey there, thanks for watching AXS TV. Subscribe, follow, like, and do all the good stuff. And make sure you leave a comment below. I don't know, just let us know what your favorite AXS TV show is, or who your favorite bands are, and what artists you're into, or just say hi, man. I'd like to be told hi. We love hearing from you. That's the point, all right? Keep it coming.